You see, I don't write or dictate some great epic story. I'm not making, I'm not writing a legend. I'm not, in other words, making up some supposed history that is to illustrate good teaching, good leading, to rescue you in that way. I'm simply telling you what I've found that works as regards what I choose to believe and why, and how you can achieve it, as far as I know, especially as regards to the way it seems to have been achieved in me. In a sense, it's a testimony. I'm simply saying what seems to have happened in my life and has been such a help, such a blessing. And I would so like others to be blessed in the same way, especially when I see the unhappiness and the difficulties that people face. And in that sense, from my experience, the need they have to know of my way. There may be other good ways too. And in that sense, of course, I've looked at many different ways, both from an analytical thinking point of view as an academic, but also as a devotee. I belong to much, so that I came to understand, rather better anyway, how they are in the beliefs that they have. And that has been greatly helped, of course, by an appreciation of their situation, empathy, if you like, and, well, an acceptance of them as being in the same sort of unknowing situation as we all are, in a world of at least what appears to present as largely uncertainty. A mix of good and bad from our point of view. And yes, as the Buddhist would say, being the focus of causes and conditions, much of which seems at least beyond our control. I have noticed, as most people have, the importance of what we think and what may be influencing what we think, and the ideas and notions we have of freedom and oppression, hope and discouragement, joy and distress. And I feel that I've been blessed in somehow being led to be well experienced in what we might call wisdom, preoccupation and understanding of the complexity that seems to determine our life, in some measure at least, and greatly affect our level of well-being. I am and have been ever majorly concerned with well-being, and you could say, well, we all are. And my experience is not of the supernatural in the extravagant way of visions, as vivid as reality and staggeringly impacting in what one's beliefs are. That has not been my experience, you see. I've pursued, as you know, a habit of, seriously pursued, a habit of thankfulness. And that has been, as I see it, an incredible blessing to me. I have searched out all the belief systems that I seem to become aware of, to in some sense check on their possible validity in bringing well-being, happiness, joy, peace, love, earnest friendship and relationships. I have, as you know, a very checkered career of change. I live now the other side of the world. I've been married to, even formally, three ladies. And there were one or two other very significant relationships to me before marriage, formal marriage, when I was younger. I've had a variety of occupations, but mostly in the sort of teaching, lecturing line. And started in a very affluent household with a very beautiful mum and a very loving mum. Well, once I got to the age of 5. But my birth mum and dad. And I'd been schooled by mum, who achieved materialistic success in marrying dad, from being poor, council house, very poor by today's standards, desperately really, to being very well off, even by today's standards, very well off. Yet she despised what she'd achieved in a sense. She valued relationship. It was very good at making one with me. I'm not sure it's terribly successful with others, although she certainly did have close, long-standing friendships. But relationships were important to her. Religion and God was not. Although in the background of her mind, I think there was always the hope that a fairly traditional Christian type God existed. But more sort of something to turn to in desperate hope rather than strong conviction. And I have experienced myself moving from secularity as a youth to most earnestly embracing, trusting in God. And although I say not the extravagant miracles, astonishing synchronicities and provisions and answers to prayer, so to speak, meeting my needs. Experienced so many amazing blessings in this way that my life seems to have been a catalogue in consequence of this attitude of looking for such goodness. It seems that my life's been a catalogue of astonishing provision and blessing. And I unquestionably want this for all life. So, I have purposed and achieved an enormous number of recordings. That could conceivably be a real significant blessing to at least a few people. And I would love it to be a blessing to many, of course. I don't feel this is a necessity from my point of view, because I have a trust in the existence of an incredibly benevolent God. And when I say I have a trust, I mean I've chosen to trust. And I found that very easy, given my awareness of the blessings I've experienced. But I've chosen to become aware of such. And I think I could well have sailed through life not aware of such. And yet, you know, everyone that's alive has received life, obviously by definition, and an environment, a universe in which to experience that life. None of which is of their own making. They've been blessed, they've been provided for. And appreciation of this fact causes gratitude to just well up within inside you. This gratitude brings hope and assurance, trust, joy and peace, of course. Every blessing, a great desire for God to exist and to be able to thank Him and appreciate Him for it. A great desire to be a blessing and a joy to Him a love of God. You see, I'm saying it just comes from gratitude, and that gratitude comes from a desire to seek out all that's good and lovely in your life and the lives of those around you, and to let gratitude just transform your whole state of being. So I believe in this astonishing miracle because I've experienced it, and it is of the nature of which this astonishing experience that it drives me to want to bless others likewise. It fills us with love and care for life, you see, both empathy and appreciation of God and all his creation, the trees, the day, the weather, everything, society, all that's brought us so much of which we had so little cause of. I've gone on for 16 minutes, 17 now, nearly, in this little recording, and the time has passed as if it were but a moment or two. Fullness of life is like that, which is why we need eternity to enjoy it. What do you think? Lord bless you. Cause his face to shine within you. Give you joy and peace. Fill your whole being with gratitude and love, that you may know all blessing, all provision, the love of God, both his love for you and your love for him, and the blessing of trusting that he's your dad, and the way that this alone transforms your spiritual life into an astonishing success. I was told by a fortune teller, oh no, my dad was told that he would marry a red-headed tall woman and have a son who was associated with fame. Famous, Dad said. Not exactly. Associated with fame. I was told by a palmist, an Indian chap, very successful in his occupation, very wealthy. He was at pains to tell me, said I would be successful in life. I was only about 18 or 21 at the time, I can't remember which. When I said, how do you mean? Well, of course, he could only think in terms of material wealth, and I was already more advanced than that. I knew in my heart from Mum and relationships and her turmoil with Dad that I needed a success in terms of loving relationships. And I hadn't really experienced it with anyone other than Mum at that time. But, oh well, I had. If it was 18, yes. I'd been in love with Linda. Oh, well, I was very clear, wasn't I? That's partly why then. I knew I valued love, not material wealth. As regards material wealth, I'd been there and done that. Dad had provided that experience for the household. I don't mean I don't value what he did. Security and provision is very important for life. Thank you, earthly Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad, for making that possible, of course. So, I can say most happily with Jesus, I am come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And although not as spectacularly as the Jesus story, as regards extravagant miracles and impact on the world, yet I do have the answer to much of life's difficulties. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. And thank you for making me the blessing that I have been. And I won't judge how small or large that is. He does a greater thing in you than through you, is the scripture. I couldn't tell you where that is, but it's certainly my experience of being a basic principle of the religion of Christianity, of which I've considered much and experienced much. Love you, Dad. Just thank you for all your love and care of all of us, all life, and for loving all that you have made. This is my trust. And a great blessing it seems to have been too. To trust in your loving kindness and ability, of course. A perfect dad. Which is, as I understand, to be in accordance with the Jesus story. It doesn't have to be a history, the Jesus story. It only has to be valid in terms of the way to think, to be blessed. Thank you, Dad. Whether it's Zoroaster, Jesus, Muhammad, myself, or yourself, man can only give what he has in his purse. But that he does give says everything about who he is in eternity. Thank you, Dad. So, something like the story of Jesus, who says, I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Life eternal. Well, can't help valuing such a purpose, such a person. Thank you, Dad. To worship you I live, to worship you I live to worship you. To worship you I live, to worship you. I live to worship you. You see, to be in the presence and the company of God, to be ever aware of Him, is everything. Thank you, Dad.